Namo Narayanaya. Namaste, everybody. My name is Rudra, and I will be the MC for today's wonderful talk. Our Bharatiya Samskriti and Vedic philosophy was made richer with the contributions of various female scholars and thinkers. Women played a vital role in all aspects of academia, and great respect was bestowed on them during the Vedic times. Rishikas like Gargi, Maitreyi, Lopamudra, Kosha, to name a few, were considered as exalted gurus and great philosophers. But the dignity and respect given to female scholars waned with the passing of years. Western ideology and patriarchy started influencing the extent that women had to play in the social and academic sphere. With the reawakening of Sanatana Dharma and the attempts made by awakened generations, there is hope to change all that and have Shakti take its power back. The Guruvayurappan Temple of Brampton is very proud to launch its first of a kind Vichara Dashakam, a series in which 10 powerful and eminent female scholars from various countries will be speaking to us on scriptural topics. This is one of a kind, especially because of the sheer academic and philosophical excellence of these Panditas. And now we have R.K. Padiyat, one of the temple's board members, to welcome you all and launch the series. R.K. Uncle, please go ahead.
Good morning, namaskaram and greetings to all. It is indeed with great pleasure that Guruvayurappan Temple of Brampton in Canada is launching Vichara Dashakam series of lectures today. Our temple is one of its kind in Canada, built strictly according to the Keralite Vastu guidelines, incorporating the Agama Shastra principles under the wise leadership of our chief priest, Sri Kariyannur Manadivagaran Nambudiri. The temple had its grand opening in July 2019. Our temple is more than a place of worship and prayer. Our mission is to promote the time-tested golden values of Sanatana Dharma and become an umbrella organization to support the community in general in their times of need. Initiatives such as Vichara Dashakam is a step to provide our devotees and members an opportunity to listen and learn from well-respected leaders like Swamini Pramananda today. We are also excited that all the speakers in this series are women, which supports the temple's vision of active participation from women in all temple's activities now and in the future. I would like to thank Shaji and family, Balu and other temple's team members for organizing this event. I now invite Swamini Ji for sharing her words of wisdom on a very interesting topic, uncovering the devotees in oneself. Om Namo Narayana, Om Namo Narayanaya, and may Lord Guruvayurappan bless you all. Namaste.
Thank you, R.K. Uncle. So now a little bio of the wonderful speaker we have today. Swamini Pramananda, affectionately known as Ammaji, is a spiritual leader and visionary behind the organization Purna Vidya, based in Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu. She studied under Puja Sri Swami Dayananda Sarawati, and for the past 35 years has been sharing the vision of oneness and harmony with seekers around the world. An eloquent speaker and a Vedantic scholar, her understanding of the oneness of all beings can be found in her life work, Purna Vidya. Ammaji is an author of over 24 books, and her work spans many countries, including various educational and community initiatives. She is also very committed to various charities and environmental activities in the Gangetic and Himalayan belt, and has been doing relief and charity work, including the Kedarnath disaster. Ammaji, please begin.
Let us begin with a prayer. Om Sitamakarnishannam Shubhravastram Trinetram Karadita Kalashodrit Sotphalabhityabhishtam Vidhi Harihara Rupam Setu Koti Rajushtam कलितसितदुकूल्हां जाह्नवीं तां नमामि नमामि गंगे तव पादपङ्कजम् सुरासुरैर्वन्दितदिव्यरूपम् भुक्तिं च मुक्तिं च ददासि नित्यम् भावानुसारेण सदा नराणाम् जय जय गंगे जय हर गंगे 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 Namaskaram to everybody. We have a very beautiful topic here, uncovering the devotee within. Uncovering the devotee within is about discovering the devotee in oneself. The Sanskritam word for devotion is bhakti, which stems from the root, Sanskritam root bhaja, sevayam, meaning to serve. And therefore, bhakti is an act of service which is done selflessly, with dedication, with a commitment to that which you revere, that which you love. Devotion, when we say there are different types of devotion, Matru Bhakti, Pitru Bhakti, Deva Bhakti, Acharya Bhakti. We have devotions connected to different relationships because these are commitment of selfless seva, service, respecting, revering those relationships. And so we have different types of relationships, different types of bhakti. Well, this devotion, when you say a devotion, therefore, it means what? Bhakti or devotion, what does it really mean to us? We are devoted to our family members, we are devoted to our profession, we are devoted to the art, we are devoted to a cause, we are devoted to an ideology. When we talk about discovering the devotee within you, we are talking about, in a religious context, we are talking about a special relationship, a relationship of the created with the creator, a relationship of me as a created being towards the creator, and therefore there is a commitment in this relationship. This commitment we call religion, we call spirituality. Well, whatever be our terminology, really, it is important that this relationship be wholehearted, selfless, and connected to that which you revere. Well, if I were to ask you, how is it that you understand this emotion of devotion? Is devotion an emotion? Is devotion an understanding? Is devotion something like you understand anxiety? When somebody is angry, you say, well, look at that emotion. He's so angry, or he's anxious, or he's depressed, or he's sad. Can you say, look, that is an emotion of devotion? Can you label devotion as a single emotion? People may have acts of devotion, but they need not have devotion. Or one may be a devotee and may not express in different actions that you expect. And therefore, how does one understand bhakti? How do you see it as an emotion? Well, in my thinking, it is not a single emotion like anxiety or stress or anger and sadness. It is a complex emotion. It is like the emotion of love. No. If I ask you, here you have a teenage child growing up at home who wants to know, Dad, how do you know when you're in love? What are you going to say? Are you going to say your pulse rate increases? Then he'll be watching his pulse as a measure of love. How much does it increase to? Is your heartbeat going to increase? What is the sign? Can you really define? Can you measure? Can you have defined parameters for this emotion called love? No. It has different expressions, is it not? And therefore, when we talk about bhakti or devotion, it is something like love. It is a combination of emotions. It includes shraddha, it includes faith, it includes hope, it includes trust, it includes commitment, it includes surrender, it includes so many beautiful, beautiful emotions. And that is what we call bhakti. That means bhakti is in a context. For this bhakti to emerge, this complex emotion to emerge, it requires a context. Like love requires a context, is it not? You cannot tell your son, well, this is you when you feel your pulse rate go high, then you're in love. That's not a context. Even when he goes for a job interview, his pulse rate goes high. And so, what is the context? When he asks you, all you can say is, son, when you are in love, you will know. You will know. What it is all about, you will know. That's all you can say. Well, how would you know? Because when the environment is conducive, when the context is right, the love will emerge. The feelings would manifest when the environment is correct. Devotion towards the divine is not connected to a particular person or an ideology. It's committed to, it occurs in the context of a relationship. And it involves, this relationship is that of a created towards the creator. My guru used to say, all of us are spasmodic devotees, he used to say. Spasmodic devotee means now and then devotee. Suddenly on a Sunday morning, devotion emerges because it's the morning to go to Guruvayurappan temple and mark the register with your presence. And so a spurt of devotion. And by noon after lunch, that devotion goes into oblivion. This kind of a relationship, would you call a relationship of the created towards the creator, of a devotee towards the Lord? I have my doubt. I'm not sure if I would call it so. Every relationship, yes, is contextual. You are a father when your son is before you. You're a husband when your wife is standing next to you. You're an employee when the boss is around. Every script, every role you play is always contextual. And the minute the person walks away, the script changes. And therefore, the relationship comes and goes, depending on the context. But please tell me, in the relationship of the individual with the divine, of the devotee with the creator, is it so erratic or contextual? In fact, whether the other relationships are there or not there, you are always a devotee. You are always a fundamental devotee because you are always connected to the divine. You are always a created being living in this embodiment, and therefore you can never miss this fundamental relationship of the created with the creator. Making the relationship constant. Making this relationship constant, consistent, ever there. Being awakened to this relationship as being ever with us is really called unraveling, discovering the devotee within you. And in order to do so, we have various, in our cultural traditions, various expressions that we have. When you have love in your heart, you express it through different forms, don't you? You may offer a flower, you may offer gifts, you may do so many things. These are expressions because any emotion it communicates to the other heart only through forms. The cultural form. A tribal may express an emotion differently from a man in the city, but whichever form he uses becomes his cultural form of expression. In the Indian cultural traditions, we have different expressions of bhakti, and these expressions are called Navavidha Bhakti. Shravanam, Kirtanam Chaiva, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam. 9 expressions of devotion. The first one is called Shravanam. Shravanam meaning listening to the glories of the divine, like Parikshit did, like Shravanam, even listening to stories, listening to Vedanta Shravanam is all about listening. Why do you need to listen? These days, It's very rare that people listen. Everyone wants to be a speaker, a teacher. But have you ever sat and listened? Listening to the glories of the divine means being in awe, being in deep appreciation of the nature of the Lord, because remember, it is a relationship. You cannot have devotion, you cannot have selflessness and commitment to a relationship if you do not even know who you are committed to. If you do not know what is it that you are committed to, how are you going to find a commitment? And therefore, having an exposure to the glories of the infinite being, understanding the Lord as the spiritual traditions of India teach, is really a privilege. And that process is called Shravanam, a way in which you learn to connect to the divine. You educate yourself about him. Listening to Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna introduces himself to us. Who else can introduce Bhagavan? Who else can you can introduce me as Swamini Pramananda? But try introducing the infinite being and say, look, this is who he is. A finite little being can introduce an infinite being. It's like a torchlight trying to show the sun. Look, there is the sun. Hey, I don't need you, torchlight. The sun reveals itself in its own glory. And so too in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna reveals his true nature, and the greatest secret is revealed in the Gita. Raja Vidya, Raja Guhyam. What is this great secret of the Bhagavad Gita? The secret is that Ishvara Darshanam is Atma Darshanam. Ishvara Darshanam is Atma Darshanam. And this is not an ordinary secret that Lord Krishna reveals. Really, it forms the basis of all spiritual traditions in India. So here, Shravanam is a very important expression to get to know the Lord. It's an expression of one's devotion. And the second is called Kirtanam, singing the praise of the Lord through music, through songs. Sage Narada is said to have traveled all worlds, all universes, singing the glories of the Lord, and thus inspiring men, celestials, divine beings, inspired everybody in his devotion. So much so that it was this devotion of Sage Narada that helped him gain self-knowledge from Sage Sanat Kumara. You find the saints in India, so many saints, when they express their thrill of this relationship, is expressed through poetry, through dance. Mirabai, Tyagaraja, so many hundreds of thousands of saints have emerged in this spiritual tradition for so many generations together. And what did they do? They sang and danced the glories of the divine. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Chaiva, Smaranam. Smaranam means constantly remembering the Lord. Remembering the Lord in the form of a prayer. Remembering the Lord through japa, through contemplation. Prahlada is a great example of Smarana Bhakta, a Bhakta who did Smaranam. And so much that his father, who was a demon king, Hiranyakashipu, who could not tolerate Prahlada's devotion to the Lord, has multiple attempts to kill him, and every time he comes back untouched. Prahlada's power of prayers, how he remains protected. And you know the story, how the Lord takes Narasimha Avatara and finally kills the demon king. Navavidha Bhakti is a great model for us to look at how these devotees connected to the divine, and what is it that I can do? What is that? Where am I? What is it that I'm comfortable with? Which expression works for me? Then it is for me to teach myself how to express my relationship. For this Pada Sevanam, which is basically serving the feet of the Lord, and it refers to various activities of worship done with humility. Humility is important because it is seva, remember? And when we say Pada Sevanam, Pada, or the feet of the Lord, is the lowest part of the body, and therefore Pada Sevanam means you need to bend your head. A very, very tough task for human beings is bending one's head. And therefore, Pada Sevanam is symbolic of humility. Seva, expression of your devotion with humility. We have so many sevaks of the Guruvayur temple. You don't walk into the temple as if you own the temple. If you do, Bhagavan will teach you his own lessons, his own way. Devotion is about entering with head bowed. That's why even the doors are small. Into the temple, even into one's own home. In the villages, you find the entrance is so small. You have to bend your head when you enter. Vidura is a great example. He symbolizes this attitude of seva, Pada Seva, to Lord Krishna by offering worship at his feet. And then you have Archana. Archana is offering worship by offering flowers, chanting various names to the divine. Om Shivaya Namaha, Om Maheshwaraya Namaha, Om Shambhave Namaha, Om Pinakine Namaha, Om Shashishekharaya Namaha, and so Namaha, 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 Namaha. Every time I offer that flower to the Lord, it's a reminder that it is my surrender to the divine, to his different glories, to every glory of the Lord, my surrender. Technically, when you say Namaha, you're supposed to go Sashtanga Namaha. You're supposed to do is Namaskara with your 8 limbs, Ashtanga Namaskara. Urasa, Shirasa, Chaiva, Vachasa, Manasa, Gira, Padbhyam, Janubhyam, Karabhyam. And so your entire 8 limbs you throw on the ground, you surrender wholeheartedly. Body, mind, sense complex is at the feet of the Lord, is one Namaha. In this tradition, we have 108 minimum we do. Ashtottara Shatanama Archana. And when we do this Archana, 108 Namaskara, we cannot fathom. Even one Namaskara, when you go down, you need somebody to lift you back up. How am I going to do 108 Namaskara to the Lord? And so this great tradition always gives us alternate possibilities. And so we take a flower and offer to the Lord. Namaha. The next flower, Namaha. Every offering of a flower is symbolic of my Namaskara. And so very, very beautiful is what you call this devotion that is called Archana. And you find the Vedic rituals, the pujas. It is done. It has been done by the kings, by the rishis of our tradition. In the families, we do Archana. Temples you go, you ask for a minimum one Archana to the Lord. Why? Because it's a symbol of my surrender. And therefore, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Chaiva, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam. Vandanam is a beautiful example of Vandanam is Akrura. Akrura was the uncle of Lord Krishna. And it is said he was the commander-in-chief of the Yadava army. And it is said that his adoration, his love and devotion to Lord Krishna was really unsurpassed. When he goes back to Vrindavan from Mathura, when he goes to Gokul, but because Lord Krishna has sent him to see how Radha is doing, how the gopis and gopikas are doing, to assure them, give them assurance, and Akrura goes. There is another incident wherein Akrura is sent by Kamsa himself to go and bring Lord Krishna. And knowing fully well why Kamsa has called Krishna, the Lord, to Mathura, Akrura, hesitantly he goes, all the time thinking of Lord Krishna. What will he say? How will he invite him? And when he reaches Gokul, he steps down, finds out where Lord Krishna walked. And wherever he walked, that dhool, that mud, Akrura does a vandanam, a salutation. He falls, drops his body to that space where Lord Krishna walked. Vandanam is a great, great quality that Akrura symbolizes. And we say the next one is Dasyam. Dasyam is service, seva. Is seva to the Lord. You know, I'm sure you will agree with me when I say Hanumanji exemplifies seva. Seva to Lord Rama. From the time he meets Lord Rama, he lives his life in devotion, dedication, and seva to Lord Rama. And so Hanumanji represents the expression of Dasyam. Sakhyam is an expression of the Lord in friendship with him. Sugriva had the courage to sign a pact of friendship. He symbolized friendship with Lord Rama. You can only be a friend with an equal. And to think of the Lord as your equal means what? Means I don't exist separate from the divine. A certain adhikara with which we have seen saints in the mountains, in the Himalayas. During my 12 years of my life there, I've seen saints who talk to Ganga, the goddess, with adhikara.
പഞ്ചഭൂതങ്ങള് പഞ്ചഭൂതങ്ങളും മനുഷ്യ ജീവിതവും
The saints talk to the gods and goddesses with adhikara, with a right. And that capacity, that freedom, that confidence, that trust in your friendship with the Lord is something really unique, a unique expression of devotion that we see. And as I said, Sugriva exemplifies this expression of devotion. Finally, we have Atma Nivedanam. Atma Nivedanam is nothing but offering oneself totally to the Lord. And King Mahabali is the one who is symbolic of this, because when Mahabali became this, the Lord, a Trivikrama, one who really showed his Vishwarupa, in one step he took all the worlds above. In the second step, as you know the story, the Lord consumed the worlds below. Mahabali was left with no territory to claim as his own. And when Mahabali was asked by Lord, where will I place the third foot which you have granted me? I have covered the universe in 2 feet. Mahabali recognizes his foolishness to claim the universe as his. What was left is nothing. What was left was his own body, mind, sense complex that he had falsely also claimed as his own. In fact, is this body really your own? Can you really call yourself the owner of this body? You are only a trustee. Why? Because this body has been provided to you. The 5 elements are not created by you that make up this body. Your breath is not created by you. It is nothing but air from the outside world. The fire, the temperature that this body maintains is not created by you. It is the grace, the blessings of Lord Agni. And what is yours then to call this body as mind, as my own? In fact, Mahabali's moksha is that day when he bowed his head and asked the Lord to place the third foot on his head. Why? To annihilate that ego that separated him from the divine. And that's what we call Mahabali Moksham, the festival of Onam. Navavidha Bhakti is really the creating a conducive environment for your devotee in you to surface, to unravel, to uncover. And one uses these different expressions, different forms available in our tradition to be able to be a bhakta. But remember, even when you want a relationship with the Lord, there's always a question. Hey, what is your intention? In any relationship, when you begin the relationship, your intention matters. And we all start in very selfish ways. And so the Lord tells in the Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvidha bhajante mam ye janaha sukritorjuna artha jignasu artharthi jnani cha bharatarshava udaraha sarve vaite jnani tu atmaiva me matam. Lord Krishna describes the different intentions in which human beings wish to connect to the Lord. It's very interesting. We all start with distress. Today, humanity is in distress, right? Helpless we are, anxious we are, fearful we are. All that we have been through in these challenging times. And what has been the common message? Pray, pray, pray. This is a devotee in distress called Artha Bhakta. Artha Bhakta means a Bhakta who remembers to pray to the Lord when things are going wrong. When you feel things are going wrong, or when you're anxious to go for an interview or to appear for board exams, you suddenly remember that you've forgotten how to pray, but you go to the temple, show your face and leave. You're a devotee. You're relating. And what is this relationship? A relationship of a devotee in distress that makes you connect to the divine. This is called an Artha Bhakta. Lord says, well, that's where my devotion, my children, my devotees begin their journey with me. And so here, we begin there, but some of us end our relationship with the Lord as an Artha Bhakta. We need to grow. Like any relationship grows in time. You've been married for 25 years and you do not relate to your wife at the age of 50 as you related to her when you were 25, do you? A relationship, when you are young, 10 years later, the relationship equation has changed. Give it another 10 years, there's another change. And what is this change? The change is in the growth, in the maturity, we hope. In sacrifice, in being selfless. And so your relationship with the Lord, it may have begun in distress. But is it going to end in distress is the question. Are you going to remain an Artha Bhakta? No, Ammaji, I'm an Artharthi. What is that? I used to remember the Lord and pray to him when I was in distress, but now I make sure I pray to him every day. I'm now a businessman. I have a multinational company, my own, and I have a lot of responsibilities, and I have made God my partner in business. This is called using the Lord in partnership. He is the means for an end. What is your end? End is money making or whatever. And God is your partner. And so you promise him 5% of your profits, 10% of your profits. There are better bhaktas who will offer 2%. Lord has to decide whether he's going to take this partnership or not. He says, I accept. They are also my devotees. They have to grow up. They are improving in their devotion, Artha to Artharthi. And you spend your life praying to the Lord for this, that, the other. Every time you go to your Guruvayur temple, the checklist is there. I have to ask Bhagavan for this. There is so many things to be done, which he has not done. And you go there to remind him. This is a Artharthi devotee. Lord says, well, he still has to grow up. A time will come when he will chase me, not for my pocket, not for this transaction, but a time will come when he will want to know who is this great provider of my life. He will become a Jignasu Bhakta. He is a third type of devotee who has devotion, but his devotion is looking for the creator, the being of power, the provider, the one who has given us our life and all that we have today. When you wish to know the Lord, when you are in search of Him, you are a seeker, a spiritual seeker, and every seeker is a bhakta, a devotee. He's seeking the Lord. He looks upon the Lord as an end in view, end of life. And the fourth devotee is Jnani. Who is a Jnani? The one who has discovered his identity, his relationship with the Lord, not as a spasmodic devotee, not as a devotee that is born and gone from a Sunday morning to an afternoon, but a Jnani devotee is a devotee in whose devotion there is a peace, a fundamental baseline, a consistency, an anchor, and that anchored relationship, in that he sees no difference between him and the divine. Jnani tu mama atma, Lord says. The Jnani, the wise man, says, I am him, he is me. He doesn't see himself as separate. And in that devotion where there is oneness with the Lord, then there is nothing more left to be done. That's the devotion that you remain anchored in. That's the devotion of a saint. And Lord says, that devotee is the dearest to me. And therefore, unfolding the devotee in you is about opening up. Unfolding the devotee in oneself is about discovering this devotion from a Artha Bhakta, devotee in distress, to a devotee who is in union, in oneness with the divine. Sri Rama asked Hanumanji to comment on what is the nature of Hanumanji's devotion towards him. And there is a very beautiful statement in which Hanumanji says, Deha buddhya tu dasosmi, jiva buddhya tadamshakam, atma buddhya tvameva aham, iti me nischita matihi. Hanumanji says, when I look at myself from the standpoint of this physical body, Deha buddhya, then I am your dasa, I am your servant. You are the master of the universe and your will prevails. I am only a yes man. I obey your command. Deha buddhya tu dasosmi. Jiva buddhya tadamshakam. When I see myself as an individual, as a subtle being, as a spiritual being, not as this body, but as a spiritual being, not a physical being. When I see myself as a jivatma, then I am your amsha, your limb. Because there are so many jivatmas in this universe, I am only one of those. I am part of the whole. You are the whole. I am a part. But when I see you from the standpoint of my Atma, Atma Buddhya, the truth is Tvameva Aham. When I see myself from the standpoint of my Atma, I know one fact, and that fact is what? The fact is you are me, I am you. We are not separate. And thus we find this gradation, this unfolding comes to us, this maturity, growing maturity in our relationship with the divine. Like any relationship in the world is about growing into it. And you grow into it when you become less and less selfish and more a giver. How will you relate to the infinite being as a devotee? This tradition has taught us the lessons of devotion. You know how? Well, one is learn to live in gratitude. It is about consciously cultivating certain behavioral patterns, changing one's attitudes towards nature. It is about ecological awareness. It's about growing into a spiritual ecology, which is what the Vedic tradition was a master in. And therefore, if you want to uncover the fundamental devotee in you, what should you do? Well, I would say be a giver to the universe, a giver of gratitude, not a consumer, a contributor. A giver, live in gratitude and live in one great truth. A great truth which has been revealed by the Upanishads. I have not talked about who is it that you are being devoted to. No. The question is not who is God. The question is, what does it mean to be a devotee? It's about the transformation within. Whatever be your concept of the divine, it doesn't matter. What matters is how this relationship has blessed you as a human being. Well, to top it all, the icing on the cake is this. Ishavasyam idam sarvam. The message of this great tradition is all that is here is divine. That means the universe is sacred. It is divyam. The mountains are sacred, the rivers are sacred, the wind is sacred, the trees, the forest, the land, the birds, the animals, they are sacred. They are all expressions of the divine, is what we are taught. Relating to the Lord is relating to the world. Awaken to the fact that it is divinity's expression, and learn to revere the sacred universe and live a humble life in gratitude. This is what our tradition has taught us, and this is what the culture supports. And I'm sure our lives, those of us who have taken to this dharma seriously, our lives are living in great blessings of this, of who we are. Thank you all for giving me this opportunity to share these few words of devotion with all of you. Hari Om, that's it.
Wow, Ammaji, thank you so much for such a wonderful and informative talk. So this now brings us to our question and answer period. So if anybody else has any questions for Ammaji, please send them to me in the Zoom chat box. So our first question is a little longer of a question. It's, how do you choose the right type of devotion? Is one superior to another? What is the preferred for novice devotees? Is there any specific sadhana one has to perform?
Well, when we talk about so many expressions of devotion, then it's very clear that this great versatile dharma gives us possibilities, and it is for us to find our comfort level, is it not? It is for us to know where we are at. I cannot tell you devotion is about meditating 6 hours a day. You will not take the first step. But there are people who spend their lives in meditation. There are other people who begin from the beginning. Wherever you are at in your journey, remember, it's a relationship, your relationship with the Creator. And therefore, it's very, very personal. You both have to decide. You cannot ask your dad, how should I love my girlfriend? Give me a parameters, give me a template. There is no template. There is no standard template. It's about your relationship, you, the soul, with the other soul. It's about you, the created, with your creator, and therefore you need to walk your path. You need to open the path for your heart. It is nobody's template that we can follow. It is our exclusive journey with the divine.
Thank you. That was a wonderful answer. So our second question is, can you please explain the concept of Viparita Bhakti?
Which bhakti?
Viparita? I can just send that question later. That's fine. So
Okay, I didn't. No, I don't follow. I don't follow the Sanskrit word that you say.
okay. So that does bring us to the end
Is
of
it
this talk.
Viparita Bhakti?
Yes.
Viparita bhakti.
Yeah.
I do not know what you mean. Viparita in Sanskrit means opposite. So Viparita bhakti means opposite bhakti. I am really sorry. I've never heard that expression. What is opposite bhakti? What do we mean by that question?
Does she mean about Kamsa's? Kamsa always was thinking about Krishna. I do not know whether she is
Yeah, they do talk. Correct. You're right. You're right about that. So they do talk about even the asuras reach the Lord, you know. So are you telling me that that's a better path? Is an easier path, Viparita Bhakti? I will not agree with that, because when you live a life in the universe which is sacred, it is about aligning with the sacred. It's about falling in sync with the rhythm of the universe. It's about falling in sync with dharma. And therefore, bhakti finds its fulfillment when dharma lives in your heart. And so, Viparita Bhakti, there is a lot more that is being said there. It is not so simple that whether you are a Ravana or or a Lakshmana, it is the same. It is not the same. It is definitely not the same.
I think the very other good example of Viparita Bhakti is Hiranyakashapa and Prahalada. Hiranyakashapa always hates Hari, and in a way, actually, by hating, he actually reminding himself of Hari all the time. So that is also one good example of Viparita Bhakti in my view.
Yes, you can say that. But what is the message for us in Viparita Bhakti? That is it okay to be a Hiranyakashipu? Is that the message?
No, it is a wrong message. That's what, by hating. Yeah, absolutely. It is a wrong message. We should not do Viparita Bhakti. These are the best examples.
Yeah. So therefore, I absolutely agree. So it is Asura Bhakti. And Asura Bhakti will only, Bhagwan will take your life away. But that doesn't mean it is moksha. Prahalada sits on the Lord's lap, but his father's life is taken away. So that means Prahalada's bhakti has a sattvic quality that keeps him in oneness with the Lord. You know, there is a gain of the eternal. But whereas in Hiranyakashipu, when the tamasic personification is so intense in somebody's life, that life has to be taken away because it brings an imbalance in the universe. So we need to take these stories in that perspective. Yes.
Yes, I completely agree with you, because oftentimes these questions arise in discourses. I mean, they talk about this Viparita Bhakti, and then these are the three examples that everybody wants to have. If Hiranyakashipu, and then the other very good example is Sishupala. Sishupala always kind of, enemy, but he always thinks of Krishna. So he got ultimately killed by Krishna. So, hey, why can't we do that? Instead of doing all those 9 steps that you just described, instead we just hate God. So we get, they think it is moksham, but it is not moksham, as you said. I completely, agree what you said. It is such an enlightening answer. Thank you so much.
So thank you, everybody. So that is unfortunately all the time that we have for today. I'm sure that we could have heard from Ammaji for a whole day, if possible. So I'd like to thank you, Ammaji, for a very inspirational talk. I think that I speak on behalf of everyone in the temple in saying that we are so fortunate to have heard from you today. So let's do one sloka before we end for today. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kachit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So thank you everybody for tuning into Ammaji's talk and the first lecture as part of the Vichara Dashakam series. Take care, stay safe. Namaste everybody.